Hey everybody, and welcome to Bonsai by Alan. Today I'm going to take these Ilex Shillings cuttings out of the bed that they've rooted in, and I'm going to place them into a somewhat unorthodox place. The holes in cinder blocks that I'm using as a raised bed. And these plants here are Green Island ficus in 1-gallon containers. And, well, they're not part of this video though, so don't look at them. So I'm going to plant the shillings in the holes of these cinder blocks. And I have some that have been at the end of this very same bed for 3 or 4 years now, and I will show you those right now. This is 5 Ilex shillings, each planted in the individual hole in a cinder block. And if we can come down and look, you can see that they've got some decent trunks, and they're all in their own little individual hole. Now these are probably overgrown a little bit, maybe a little bit, but I use these as my stock plants. So when I take cuttings, these are the trees that I take the cuttings from. Eventually I am going to cut them way back and turn them into bonsai themselves. They probably have been in here a little too long. So the roots are, when they hit the side of the cinder block, I'm sure they've shot down into the ground. So I'm not going to do that with the other ones. I'm just going to grow them for probably a year. So back to the other area. Probably the biggest positive about doing this is that once they get established, you really don't even really need to water them anymore, because they are growing, quote unquote, in the ground. So those 5 that I just showed you, the huge ones that are my stock plants, I virtually never water them unless it gets really, really, really dry. And they're on my way because I water everything with a hose by hand, all my entire collection. And so if it does get really dry, I'll just give them a little spritz. But once they've rooted in, shillings in the ground is a very drought tolerant plant. So that's probably the biggest positive. And the other positive is that you've basically contained the roots so that when you dig them up, you've got a root system that's perfect for shohin. Most of these are going to be shohin trees, so they're going to be 5, 6, 8 inches tall eventually. And that will take a couple of years, because what I'm going to do when I go to the bed, I take the cuttings out, separate them, cut the roots, cut the top, and then basically just let them take off for the entire year. And then next spring, about this time, and today is the 29th of February, so the end of February, I'll pull them up, do another root pruning, begin to style the top, and then maybe even put them right back into the hole that they came from. So that's the trick for today. Getting the guys out of the rooting bed is going to be tricky because they have rooted together. So I'm going to separate the roots. Well, I'll show you how. As I suspected, they've all grown together in just one giant mass. So look at that. I can take the whole root ball up. But the roots are very healthy. So I'm going to need to get in there and cut away. And I'm probably not going to cut each individual. So this guy here has a really nice little trunk, but no way he's coming out of there just by yanking him. So I'm going to cut away, kind of like making lasagna. I'm going to cut a chunk, and then I'm going to separate them and then put them into water temporarily before I plant them into the holes in the cinder blocks. So that's the next step, to cut probably 4 or 5 at a time out of the bed, separate them, and then do what needs to be done to get them into the cinder blocks. Sure enough, I got 4. So this first group of 4, I'm now going to separate. This one here looks like I can actually separate it. So there we go. We've got, maybe I can come up, actually, let me just, so here we've got the roots, but I'm going to go up against the side of my house so you can see better. So here's the root ball, and it looks pretty good. And then we have a sucker here that I'm going to take off, and then I'm going to chop the top way back, probably down to about 2 inches, maybe even like to this, no, come on, maybe to this leader right here. And right now, it just, the chop back is just to get them smaller, really not looking or even assuming that I'm going to be able to do any kind of real styling. It's just getting them out of the rooting bed and into the holes in the cinder blocks. And the styling will come later, probably, like I said, next year, after I let them grow for a year. Here's all 4 separated and put into some water to keep the roots moist. And as you can see, the ones that are right on the perimeter of the seed tray, they have no roots on one side and all the roots on the other side, because there was just no way the roots could go any other way. But when I plant them, I will feather the roots out. I can grab some of these roots and pull them so they're closer to being a little more radial. And that's very important for me. A good nabari is developed when they're young like this. And that tray only has a certain number that are up against the perimeter. So if we look at this one has a little bit better roots. And this one here has a very nice root system. So I'm only going to be dealing with a percentage that are up against the perimeter of the pot. And I can still manipulate the roots and pull them towards that part that's missing. So that's the next stage, is cutting them way back, manipulating the roots, and then getting them into the cinder blocks. This is that same first guy cut back drastically. I basically took everything off except what I planned the future leader. And once again, in the back, there's no roots at all. But if this is the front, it's got some really nice roots. There are still some that need to be feathered out, and I can still feather out the ones in the back. But that's pretty much the process. So I'm going to do that to all of them. And you know, it's pretty much redundant. So I will show you these 4 as once they're in the cinder blocks. And then, you know, the updates will be maybe 2 or 3 months, maybe longer than that. And I would just let them grow out, give them some good fertilization. In the beginning, they're going to need consistent water. But once they've established, they're really zero care except for pulling some weeds. So here are the first 4 planted. And as you can see, they've almost disappeared because they got a major cutback. But all the roots are pretty nice. They weren't perfect, but I'm really looking for great things from these guys. I think if you watch some of the videos of my Ilex Shillings that I put into bonsai pots that were in the very shallow training trays, this is basically a shallow training tray. It's just a hole in a cinder block. And by far the biggest positive aspect of doing this is that once they're established, they really don't need any more water. They'll be able to just feed off the ambient water. So that's it for this video. And I know they're like just sticks, but they'll sprout in no time. I'm also going to give them a little touch of fertilizer, not a huge amount. And then once they begin to sprout and some of that growth hardens off, then I can give them a little extra fertilizer. So if you like this video, please give me a thumbs up. If you want to watch the progress of these guys, subscribe and hit the notification bell so that when I show you the update that you can see it in your feed. And leave a comment. Has anybody else done similar things like this? And if you have, let me know. And just let me know what you think just in general. So thank you so much for watching. And I'll keep you informed on these guys as they grow. And I will see you in the next video.